So we have just finished exploring post-human biology, and the logical sequence takes us to the next subject, and that would be biotech, biocapitalism, and the post-human body. Critical post-humanism, which is the main domain we are interested in, although we make passing references to popular post-humanism. Critical post-humanism is alert to what Edrina Petrina and others have referred to as biological citizenship, in which the material body is produced embedded in technoscience and capitalist structures of exploitation and of biopower, which means the body is embedded in technology and science and processes that include biopower, where the body is a laboring body or a reproductive body or an injured body, which is the original sense of biological citizenship. Adriana Petrina referring to the people who were injured in the Chernobyl nuclear accident and how their injuries determined not just state aid and support, but also the nature of their citizenship. So critical posthumanism looks at the material as in the corporeal body, which is embedded in technoscience and in capitalist structures. We can study biocapitalism and its, shall we say, contextual technology, which will be biotech, under three heads. Biocapitalism and what people studying biopolitics such as Kaushik Sundararajan and others have referred to as lively matter. Second, the judicialization of life, and science, capitalism, and kinship. So let's start with biocapitalism. Biocapitalism can be defined as the transformation of human corporeal bodies, whether it is tissues or organs or brain, whatever it might be, into resources. The resources can be commodities, can be disposable material, can be used for transplantation and organ trafficking, but they serve the purpose of capitalist process, capitalist economies, which means that we can think of this as biocapitalism. Biocapitalism is the merger of 20th century biotechnology with capitalist processes, as you can make out from the title biocapitalism. And the biocapitalist tendencies, which is basically datable to the 80s and 1980s and after, becomes a key component of biopolitics. Biopolitics, as it was famously defined by Foucault, Rabineau, and others, is the state and or corporate control over populations and bodies. So quarantine effects, compulsory vaccination, compulsory healthcare, these are forms of the biopolitical, which means that the state has control over bodies, large numbers of bodies, entire populations. It can also be defined in terms of large-scale refugee cultures, incarceration of people of particular ethnicities and races, bodies used for experimentation and extermination also are under the category biopolitics. Biocapitalism treats human bodies as resources. They can be used for extraction. They can be treated as commodities. It means effectively treating bodies, biological bodies, as animals, as clones, for servants. It effectively means you transform human life, animal life, because in posthumanism, as you know, we tend to look at both of them. Biocapitalism means transforming, converting, and rendering rendering is the term Nicola Shukin uses in her work in biopolitics and animal studies. You render the body into a commodity. You render the body into a commodity, which also leads us to the next step, and that is, it's not one or two individuals, but sometimes an entire species that are subject to biocapitalism. The identity of the species, their biological material become subject to the control, the appropriation, the commodification. This could be, commodification could be by states, by corporations, by industrial laboratories, and so on and so forth. Note the fact that biotech companies can patent biological materials now. They can patent DNAs of various people. They can patent the DNA of an entire species. They can patent entire bodies. When does biology become central to capitalism? That's our question, right? Overall, bodies become central to capitalism when technology evolves that can control and manipulate bodies. This could mean the biotech experiments that we have just mentioned, but its antecedents, its genealogy lies in things like health control, public health measures, laboratory science, which transformed bodies into guinea pigs, into experimental creatures that can be subject to different kinds of experiments. That means the body has a certain value. That value is prescribed in the laboratory by the state government, by the corporate company, or whatever it might be, right? So, biotech companies are at the cornerstone of biocapitalism. Biocapitalism also produces a form of biosurveillance. And biosurveillance has one component which we are all more or less familiar with: bioprospecting. That is, the prospecting, like it used to be for gold, is now for biological matter. This includes things like surrogates, motherhood, which, as you know, is basically wombs for hire, right? So if you can afford it, you hire a woman who can carry the fetus up to the point of delivery so that you have a baby. Biocapitalism, therefore, includes biosurveillance and bioprospecting, and here organs and tissues and infants and children are all put into a database. That database is often corporatized. It's otherwise controlled by the states. Capitalism is therefore going to control, manage life, and it becomes a legitimate model of manipulating life itself. It also means that some lives become more valuable, some kinds of tissue become more valuable, some kinds of transplantation become more expensive because they're more valuable. So if you think about it carefully, biocapitalism, like I said, is the rendering of biological matter into an object for sale, for consumption, for experimentation, for control, right? Are all bodies valued the same way? No. For example, we do know that if you have even in passing looked at transplantation, there's an evaluation of the organs. For example, the internal organs of a person prone to alcoholism will have less value in the market than somebody who has a better lifestyle, which means there's an evaluation of the biological material in terms of several features, not just its physiological functioning, but the person itself. Did the person lead a dissolute life given to substance abuse of various kinds, or did the person have a clean living? So we are looking at the evaluation of life, and biotechnology in conjunction with the law in conjunction with the law, in conjunction with science, has enormous powers to be more accurate, over biological matter, right? That is, the state working with science, by which I mean laboratories, working with the law, working with the market, the demand for certain biological matter, produces legislation that enables it to control the population, the people, the bodies, biology basically. We will be looking at these examples later, but many of you, I'm sure, are aware of Margaret Atwood's classic text from the 80s, The Handmaid's Tale. And it's a good example at this point to mention at this point, because Handmaid's Tale is about biocapitalism. It is about how a country has a problem because they are mostly sterile, ensures that the race, the species, the humanity there continues by converting some fertile women into handmaids. It's not by marriage, but it's still legal. It's not by choice, but it's legal. So the women who are fertile are meant to serve as wombs. They're impregnated, and they will, at the end of the period, produce a child. After which, the maid is sent away to another house. The child is born to the handmaid, but the handmaid has no power over the child she has delivered. And this is legal. This is perfectly legal, because that is what the legislative system, the science and technology people have done in this particular country in Margaret Atwood's novel. So biocapitalism produces biosurveillance and bioprospecting. So let's be very clear about this. There's a very clear link between capitalism, the question of ownership of new and old forms of life, intellectual property. Periodically, you will see news items that genetically modified foods and organisms are being subject to scrutiny, that they are subject to legislation or not, that there is a considerable amount of financial investment in these. And you will have frequent fights and disputes over patent rules, patent rights, especially in the 21st century. What does that mean? It means very simply, people are going to put in money into biological matter. People are going to put in thought into creating intellectual property rights around this. Just look up Henrietta Lacks, Lacks, and her story. The HeLa line, H small e, L capital A small, the HeLa line. It's interesting to see this as the preeminent example of how biocapitalism operates and how, say, the legislation supports the corporate agency or body over patents and things like that. Now, when you think of massive corporate bodies, such as the Human Genome Project, which some of you might be familiar with. So the large corporation collaborates with biology, collaborates with the life sciences to produce new species of some kind, knowledge about new species, whatever it might be. Let me draw the triad for you. There is a corporate body, there is a scientific organization, body, lab, right? And then there is the state. So this triad is crucial to our understanding of biopolitics. The state, by which I mean the government, is interested, might even be investing. Second, the scientific organization of body, which is also interested because it is at the cutting edge of both technology and cure for diseases and things like that. So capitalism meets science, meets the government. Science meets the corporate office and the state. This triad is important because that's where biocapitalism has its most effect. Second, the judicialization of life. This is very simply the health regimen. For example, we are told that for a child, you take several vaccinations up to a certain age and some afterwards, right? So we have vaccinations for whooping cough and hepatitis and diphtheria, polio, and a variety of such conditions. Second, think in terms of what's happened in the pandemic year. What happened? During the pandemic, the government working with the health services said there will be quarantine, there are lockdown zones, there are all these restrictions on traveling outside, everybody will wear a mask, everybody will get themselves tested, etc. It also said it is your responsibility to make sure that you stay indoors, that you wear a mask when stepping out, only if it's necessary, as in stepping out is only when it's necessary, and you will do a proper course of medication. The emphasis here is a biopolitical one, and it means the judicialization of life because this is a law. So you remember the circulars issued by health departments and the government saying, we will take these measures to ensure that you are safe. This is what you can think of as a judicialization of life, right?